Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm your host, Troy J. Hines, and it is time for another episode of H.A.N.D.S, the acronym standing for Human Aggression Naturally Developed for Sport, and this is the rebirth of the sweet science. First off, a lot of things are happening in the world of boxing right now. George Foreman, let me repeat that. George Foreman just fought again. Now, for those of you thinking about Big George, you know what I'm saying, with that defense, we're not talking about Big George. We're talking about George Foreman III. And again, we have to make sure we say George Foreman III because if you have done any research on George Foreman, he has 5 sons named George. It's kind of confusing. What if one of his other sons decides to box and you got to say, you know, George Foreman III, or maybe it's George Foreman IV, or GF3 or GF4 or GF5. Individual names, individual sons. Now let's get into the H.A.N.D.S top 10 fighters of all time. Let's get it right. Let's get it right. Let's keep it tight, baby. That's what I'm talking about. I'm going to start with number 10 and work my way back. Number 10. If you don't know this name, learn this name right now. Some people call him Chavo. He's a Mexican fighter. He's from the city of Santiago Tianguistenco. He's better known as Salvador Sanchez. Born January 26, 1959, and he died suddenly on August 12, 1982, at the young age of 23 years old. And he was 44-1-1 with 32 wins by knockout. Orthodox stance, stayed in the pocket, and had a big old afro. Now, mind you, I told you, Mexican fighter, big old afro. Some of Sanchez's notable fights that he had, he fought and defeated the likes of Felix Trinidad Sr., David Cote, Mike Ayala, Ruben Castillo, and very early in his career, Azuma Nelson. So these are some of the fighters that he fought. But the most notable fight, probably of the very young Salvador Sanchez's career, was when he fought Wilfredo Gomez. For those of you who do not know who Wilfredo Gomez is, he is one of the legendary punchers of all time. As a matter of fact, Wilfredo Gomez is Ring Magazine's number 13 on the list of 100 top punchers in the history of boxing. Salvador Sanchez knocked him out in the 8th round. Knocked him out. One of the things that I love about boxing is the folklore that comes around with it. The folklore that's going to come around when I'm sitting around with my grandkids and I'm telling them the legend of the Mexican fighter Salvador Sanchez. Fighters used to go to Salvador Sanchez's grave. Fighters probably still go to Salvador Sanchez's grave. Young fighters used to go to Salvador Sanchez's grave and rub their hands in the dirt near his grave so they could summon the spirit of Salvador Sanchez and bring that spirit to the ring. Chavo was a beast. Rest in peace. Number 9. Moving on to my number 9 fighter of all times, Pernell Sweet Pete Whitaker. Let me say that again. Sweet Pete. I'm not going to say Sweet Pea. I'm going to say Sweet Pete Whitaker. You know why I said Sweet Pete? Some of y'all are saying, oh, this guy doesn't know anything about boxing. He's saying Sweet Pete, not Sweet Pete. I'm going to tell you about this guy. In Norfolk, Virginia, the fans that knew Sweet Pete Whitaker, or Pernell Sweet Pete Whitaker, called him Sweet Pete. A commentator, who I will not name, thought that he was hearing Sweet Pea. But in actuality, if you go to Norfolk, Virginia, when they were going, Sweet Pete, it was Sweet Pete, not Sweet Pete. A little bit about him, got to put a gold medalist on there. Gold medalist in not only the '83 Pan American Games, but also the 1984 Olympic Games. World champion in 4 weight divisions. Pernell Whitaker, one of his notable fights that I actually remember seeing as a young child was when he fought Jorge Paez. Jorge Paez is like a circus act. He used to come to the ring, crazy hair. You think Paul Malignaggi's hair is crazy? Look up Jorge Paez. Jorge Paez would flip over the ring. He was like Nassim Hamed meets Paul Malignaggi with better skills. And that win over Jorge Paez is one of the notable highlights of Pernell Sweet Pete Whitaker's career. Now moving on to my number 8. Number 8, Floyd Joy Mayweather Jr. The you love to hate. Man, that man knows how to sell a fight. What a lot of people forget is that fighting is a business. Boxing is a business. Boxing feeds families. So you have to have an antagonist and a protagonist. So before you judge Floyd Mayweather Jr., and you shouldn't be judging anyway, because there's only one judge. But before you judge Floyd Mayweather Jr., remember, to every great storyline, there's an antagonist and a protagonist. Floyd Mayweather Jr. is a necessary antagonist in the world of boxing, and I love it. In the words of Nassim Richardson, this brother swims without getting wet. Pretty boy Floyd. This dude, Golden Gloves champ, 93, 94, 96, polished, 39-0. 39-0. Cut. Number 7. My number 7 of all times, Roy Jones. From Pensacola, Florida. Man, power, speed, agility. Courageous, brave. Roy Jones, he's one of those fighters who made people who weren't really fight fans and turned them into fight fans. Everybody remembers when Roy Jones put his hands behind his back and started mimicking a rooster. The rooster. I mean, that's borderline kung fu. Number 6. My number 6 H.A.N.D.S. Top 10 fighter of all time belongs to the baddest man on the planet, Mike Tyson. First, before I really get into talking about Mike Tyson, I sincerely want to send my condolences to the Tyson family for their loss. I cannot imagine what it is like to go through something like that. And I could not imagine what the Tyson family is going through. So I just wanted to say peace, champ, to the champ, Mike Tyson. Moving forward, had an opportunity to actually meet Mike Tyson. This must be around 10 years ago. And I met him in Washington, D.C. in passing. So let me rephrase that. I didn't meet him, I bumped into him. I ran into him. He was leaning on a purple Bentley on U Street in Washington, D.C., outside of the famous Republic Gardens nightclub. And I just remember walking, kept walking, and then all of a sudden I see this purple Bentley, and I see a little group of guys outside. And in the middle, leaning on the car, hands like this, the baddest man on the planet, Mike Tyson. If you haven't seen the Mike Tyson documentary, please go see it. It humanizes the enigma. The baddest man on the planet. Speed, power, and I gotta emphasize that, power. There has been no one since Mike Tyson that made the entire world stop and watch boxing. Name them.